Hey there, dudes and dudettes. This is Nostalgiaverse here, and today we are going to be discussing my overall thoughts on the original Final Fantasy VII, the compilation that followed, and the remake that followed that. So, to talk about the first experience I had with Final Fantasy VII, I have to tell you how I encountered it. So, I was at the movie theater with my dad and my brother who were both into RPGs a lot of the time. Me, not so much, being a younger kid who, liked more arcadey type experiences like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or Sonic the Hedgehog or Mario Brothers or Donkey Kong Country. There was a story to some of those games, but not really. It was just a very level to level, no text, really arcade type experience. Um, and RPGs just they they didn't really interest me at that age. And my brother and my dad, they were into the medieval type of stuff, like Ultima, the early Final Fantasy, and my dad played games like Baldur's Gate and Stone Keep, and you know story-driven games. And I wasn't really a part of that. I did try out Final Fantasy IV, which was Final Fantasy II here on the Super Nintendo. But on my first run through, I didn't get very far. But that was my first RPG experience as a young kid, 8 or 9 years old. So, um, anyway, one of my friends recently introduced me to anime, and I can't remember if it was like Fox Mornings or if it was Toonami. I think it was Toonami. And Dragon Ball Z was my introduction to anime. This was like the first uh, show I'd ever really watched. Well, first of all, that wasn't from America, I guess, Japanese show, and second of all, the next episode actually had relevance. I grew up watching Looney Tunes and Saturday morning cartoons and Nicktoons, Cartoon Network, Toonami, Adult Swim, Midnight Run, um, Kablam, all that stuff. I watched. I grew up watching all that stuff, and most of those shows, anything can happen in the next episode. It's just all erased pretty much, and it's like it never happened. And Dragon Ball Z was my first experience of watching a piece of fiction that had relevance to the next episode. It's like, oh, it doesn't just start over every episode like a Looney Tunes or something like that. So um, I really started to enjoy like the like mystery of like what's going to happen next and everything. And I got really sucked into Dragon Ball Z, started watching Gundam Wing, really sucked into anime. And you're wondering, what does this even have to do with Final Fantasy VII? Well, like I said, I'm at a movie theater with my brother and my dad, and a Final Fantasy VII trailer comes on the screen. And me and my brother are just like completely blown away by this, because it was all the FMV cinematics. So, you didn't know if that was going to be like what you're playing. But, even if it wasn't, the graphics for a video game looking like that back then was like mind blowing. Like, it sounds ridiculously meme worthy, but you're like, oh my god, these graphics are so real. But yeah, me and my brother saw that, completely blown away. I'm in here just starting out with anime, like basically like in the height of my interest for it. And then something else Japanese rolls along. It's a Japanese role playing game, and Final Fantasy VII just looked. I mean, it is very anime. Like, you can't get around that. It is a JRPG. It is, um, inspired by that mangaka style artwork. Um, and it does have like a Western feel to it too. But that's because the original is very Western, like, in my opinion, like with the how the world works in the story, and you know, Midgar is pretty much like America, um, just in a nutshell. But I don't want to going off too long on that tangent. Um, yeah, me and my brother were really hyped for it. My dad thought it looked cool, and we were reading all the magazines, getting all hyped for it, and this is my first time even being hyped for a game like this. And when my brother eventually got a PlayStation 1 that year, and along with Final Fantasy VII, and I'm the one who got the N64 with Super Mario 64, but obviously we shared them between each other, and he shared his file with me, like I would watch sometimes, and then I'd play a little bit, and then I'd watch, and I was just like watching the story unfold and everything, and it was just, I was like 9 years old, height of my imagination, and it just blew me away. It was like one of my first experiences that I had from a beginning, middle to end, because Dragon Ball Z was still ongoing at that point, where there's all these mysteries, and then you get like all the answers in the later half of the game, and there's all the mind-blowing revelations, and to me, like, the story was just told in a perfect way. And it was like the one game, well, not the one game, but the first game I encountered that had me questioning things about stuff in like reality, like, are we good for the planet, and like, how would it view us, or like, are we like a virus, and stuff about loss, which I, at that age, never thought about or encountered. You don't think about death or anything like that usually when you're that young. You're just carefree, happy-go-lucky in your own world, and you're invincible, and you don't even think about death existing. But it just really opened up my mind to a lot of things, the gray areas of life, and it was just, I don't know, it was just this magical experience that cannot be replicated, no matter how many times I've tried to do that over the years. It's the closest I've gotten with that is Remake, funnily enough. But so to whoever says it wouldn't do that, it's not going to reignite old feelings from the past. They're doing a really good job with that in Remake, is making me feel like this is like the first time I'm experiencing something like this again, which is incredible. It's very magical. And I've heard some people refer to the remake as soulless, and I completely disagree. And to those people, you can go fuck yourself. Anyway, moving on. Me and my brother split the file on the OG all the way to the end, and I just have really distinct memories, and it was just one of the best, bonding moments in my life with my brothers, when we were just sitting down and playing video games with each other. Not just Final Fantasy VII, but like, Mario Kart and GoldenEye, all that good stuff. We basically experienced the story together. So there is, I guess you could add that to my nostalgia, that there's some emotions behind Final Fantasy VII for me, more than just the emotions I got from the game. It's like a bonding experience with my brother. And me and my dad bonded through video games too. We didn't really talk that much, but we didn't share a lot of the same interests, but video games was an interest that we shared. We didn't talk enough about that before he unfortunately passed away, which I regret, but that connection was still there. And I still remember one day, me and my brother were skipping school, and we were just home playing Final Fantasy VII, and my dad walked in early from work, which was like, this is never going to happen. And somehow we got away with a lie that we had like a half day, or we got dropped off early, or some nonsense that wasn't true. But we just, literally skipped school because we wanted to see the story of this game progress and see what happened. And since then, I have beaten the OG like at a bare minimum like twice a year since I was like 11 or 12 years old. Like I played it through with my brother when I was 9, and then after we played together, I started my own file, and then after that, I read the player's guide completely, got 100% of it, and then from ever since, I've just been 100%ing it ever since then, because it is a comfort game for me. It is like, like coddling me in my nice little blanket, like, oh, this gives me a feeling of nostalgia and being in my childhood. But that is not the only reason that I love Final Fantasy VII. Like I said, there's just so much like crazy themes in it that are so connectable, or yeah, that's probably not the right word, but with like real, with like real life, like it feels very organic, and it's just an incredible story. The story is incredible, the themes are incredible, the twists in the game are incredible. I just like the look of it, the like, whatever you want to call it, cyberpunk, steampunk, whatever you want to refer to it as. Like, I love the look of it, and like, it's just someplace I want, like, I'm like, I would love to be like in this world. Like, I used to wander off in class when I was younger and just doodle like, try to make my own little character as like a soldier, like Cloud, because I thought soldiers were so cool. And I even used to like, when I was like an early teenager, I made a forum that had a lot of role playing in it. Like, I'm like, here, let's do like an online RP. And I had one for a bunch of different things. I had one for Dragon Ball, like create your own character and, all this stuff. And one of them was Final Fantasy VII, and just had a whole room full of people who were super into Final Fantasy VII, made your own characters, and everyone wanted to be a soldier. And it was just, I'm like I don't know, just so many people love that game, and it's just been like, it hasn't left the spotlight since it was released. Like, it's 25 years later, and people still love this game like it came out yesterday, myself included. And that's amazing. Like, I mean, that just shows you it's a masterpiece right there. Like, people can say it's overrated or whatever. There's a reason it is standing the test of time. Yeah, you can say the graphics are, I can see how someone nowadays would hate to go back and play the original Final Fantasy VII just because of the way it looks. But then they'll go play, fucking Minecraft. But, it's like little Lego people or Minecrafty, all blocky and polygonal. I get it. Sometimes you just look at a game and the aesthetic just turns you off completely. So I don't blame those people, but there are mods out there that you should check out on the Steam version that are really awesome and make it look a lot more modern, and I would argue better than if Square Enix did a straight remaster like how they did Final Fantasy VIII. That wasn't that great, but the fans do what they don't. And I would definitely check out like a modded version where they change the models to. I really like the artwork models that basically look like the actual artwork. They're very anime-esque and they look amazing. I think Max Stu did a playthrough with those models, which I would definitely check out, just to see what I'm talking about. But anyway, moving on from that, like, there, like, all the like I mentioned the themes before, all the gray areas, like, life and death, and what's good, what's evil, and just like, like, one of the big questions at the end that I love is just like, were humans good for the planet? Did the planet deem us worthy to live on it after humans were basically the cause of the planet's almost demise? So it just gets you thinking. The ending is it's not like a normal ending either. It's very like, it's just, it doesn't explain very. It's just like wide open. It like makes you think, like just think like about all the possibilities that could have happened. Like, and a lot of people have like a lot of different interpretations. I know that even though the own developers have different interpretations of the ending, and they're the ones who made it, you know. So, um, but I think it's just brilliant. It was just brilliant how they did that, and the original Final Fantasy VII is just my favorite. It's just remained my favorite piece of media ever since I touched it. My favorite work of fiction. The original to me is perfect. It's not a perfect game by any means. It has its issues, but to me, it's perfect. So, like someone wants to say it's not a fucking perfect game. There's way better games than that. Like, I'm not going to disagree with you. I'm just saying it's perfect for me. I'm like, this is the game I was looking for. It doesn't have to necessarily be, what you were looking for. So, everyone's entitled to their own opinion. And I am surprised how mainstream Final Fantasy VII has became over the years since its release. It's like, just very surprising. It's like seeing anime blow up in the West. Like, if you were playing RPGs or watching anime when you were a kid, you were pretty much bullied for that. And nowadays, like, everyone loves it. So it's pretty awesome to see. And even the people back in the day who hated on it are now opening up to it because times have changed. Yeah, like pop culture's a lot different and stuff like that. And I guess I just want to say, like, this game has, like, pretty much changed the course of my life. So yeah, it's pretty much Final Fantasy VII has pretty much changed the course of my life. And it's just like anime has. Like, I wouldn't be the weeb I am today if it wasn't for them. And Final Fantasy VII opened me up to a bunch of like, I started playing RPG after RPG after that. Like, I went back, I beat Final Fantasy IV, I beat Final Fantasy VI, I beat Chrono Trigger, and Chrono Trigger is also one of my other favorite RPGs of all time. And it has a silent protagonist, I know. Silent protagonist. But it's very like it's like a mix of Dragon Quest and Final Fantasies. So, like, you have to expect that. But I know some people don't like, like, it's not the greatest game. Like, the main character doesn't even talk. But especially back then, it didn't really matter. When it came to those kinds of games, you just, the Dragon Quest developers like you to put yourself in the main character's shoes, so you're like pretty much the one thinking or saying what the main character is. That's a design choice, but we're not here to talk about Dragon Quest. So going off topic here. I also love Dragon Quest 2, by the way. It's an amazing series that does not get enough love in the West. So if you ever, get a chance and you really are into JRPGs or even the old style turn-based of the older Final Fantasies, this one, has been sticking to its roots, except for who knows where Dragon Quest 12 is going, because that's going to be more action or all action. Who knows what it's going to be. But yeah, not here to talk about Dragon Quest once again. Moving on. So, the OG will always have a special place in my heart. It's just been there for me over the years. I play it twice a year, and, some years I've had worse years than others, and it just really helped me get through a lot of hard times, just going back and having that comfortable blanket of Final Fantasy VII. So, I just really want to thank the developers for even creating the game in the first place. Like, you're awesome. Like, you put a lot of smiles on a lot of people's faces, and I hope that gives you the most joy more than making the money you made off of it, which I think it does. I think you guys really, truly worked your ass off to give us a great experience, and you succeeded. And even to this day, it's one of the greatest RPGs ever. Even to people who, don't think it's the best RPG, they still have to acknowledge that it changed the course of JRPGs here in the West. We wouldn't be playing half these JRPGs we have now if it wasn't for Final Fantasy VII. And it got me into a lot of RPGs and a lot of games and anime and different things that I would have probably never been interested in who knows if I would have never initially seen that trailer in the movie theater of all the FMVs going on and caught my interest. Maybe I would have never even gotten into it, but all the stars just aligned for me. And, that's just my story. Just wanted to give you guys background and my overall feelings on the OG. Like, I love it. It's perfect. I mean, all the crazy shit you do in it, especially like Disc 2, all the nuts, the game just gets better and better as you go along. Like, when you first play, you think Midgar's the whole game, and then you go out and it's like a whole fucking world, and then all of a sudden, you're getting vehicles, a place you can't cross, you're, finding a bunch of hidden items and stuff, and exploring, and, you're going in the air, underwater, on mountains with chocobos, and secret caves, and it's just so much. Like, the exploration is a big part too, because it just really, like, I don't know, I just had, like, when I was a kid, it was just so magical, like, feeling like you were in that world doing the exploring yourself. And the graphics are, like, so shitty compared to today, but back then, I guess our imaginations were better, because nowadays kids don't really have to use their imaginations with stuff like bad graphics, because that's not really an issue nowadays. But I personally love the original Final Fantasy VII's graphics still to this day. They have a charm that, it's kind of like timeless in a sense, like kind of like Wind Waker, like with Zelda, not like to that extent, but to an extent. It was just, like, I can keep saying magical religious experience over and over again. It just really was amazing. It just really opened up my mind, and I felt like I was in that world, and I wanted to be in that world. And no video game since has been able to replicate that experience for me, except for Remake. And if it's replicating that experience in a good way or a bad way is still up for debate until we actually have those parts released and we actually have solid evidence of what is going on. Because right now things are set up to be a mystery and they don't want us to know. But I feel like I'm just like a kid again. I don't know. Dragon Ball is back, and Final Fantasy VII is back. One Piece is in its height, and it's been going on since like 1997, like back when FF7 came out. It's just like this 90s nostalgia. It just feels very warm, and I'm very excited. But I will talk more about that on my overall feelings of Remake. So that's all I have to say about the OG for now, and I will go into in-depth, very in-depth, one of these days, but I just wanted to give you my overall thoughts on each of these games. And now it's time for the compilation. Oh boy. So, I'm not really that big of a fan of the compilation. Not for reasons you might assume. I actually do like the lore that was introduced in it. I just don't like the way things were executed and the way the dialogue was handled. And it was just very well, Crisis Core, Advent Children, and Dirge of Cerberus to me were very cringe when it came to its dialogue. Um, I don't really enjoy playing most of the games or watching Advent Children in the compilation. Um, I never got to play Before Crisis, but I watched it. That's probably my favorite gaming entry of the compilation. Um, Not because of its gameplay, but because of the story that's told within it. I really like the way they tell the story in it. And it's a shame it was limited to just Japan, because I think it's like one of the best entries in the compilation. Crisis Core, I'm okay with the introduction of, these new characters. It's just that at the time it was just very, I don't know, weird how characters went from feeling more real in the original Final Fantasy VII to feeling like, I guess Max just said this before, anime robots. And, I watch anime, so I know he's like talking about this like 90s, this early 90s anime dubbing where it just doesn't sound great. Like anime dubs sound a lot better now. But yeah, that just like really put me off. Like just the way that the characters talked, the way sentences were structured, just everything about the voice direction. I don't like hate the voice actors themselves, but like the way they were directed, and just the way they retconned some things. I wasn't really a huge fan of that, and I mean, it's understandable because they need to pull more story out of the original Final Fantasy VII. But the compilation just wound up being very disconnected from the original. Like they're two completely separate entities. Like the compilation just has stuff that does not appear or happen in the OG whatsoever. So yeah, that's why I say that. And it obviously wasn't planned back when they made the original. Like the compilation wasn't even a thought until after FF7 reached critical acclaim, and they're like, "Oh, we need more FF7. People love FF7. Let's milk it." But yeah, it's just I enjoyed like my first playthrough of each game just because of that. Like, oh, it's Final Fantasy VII. I want to see the world and well, not the world, but the locations and things like that, and like updated graphics. But for the most part, I didn't really care for any of the story in any of them because of the way it was laid out. Like, and I think Remake corrects a lot of these issues. It's they're presented differently in Remake, and like something like putting Nero and Weiss in Remake and making them likable, like that's possible. It's just the compilation didn't do such a great job of the things I mentioned before, like the voice direction and just how they laid out the story. But the lore itself is, I enjoy it. I enjoy the lore. I don't think I enjoy it as much as some other people do, but I definitely like when things are expanded on, and I'll never be opposed to that. But there's Before Crisis, Crisis Core, On the Way to a Smile, the Turks Kids Aren't All Right, Advent Children, Dirge of Cerberus, and the Lost Episode, or the online phone game of Dirge of Cerberus that we never got over here, that explains more story about that and what happens with all that deep ground stuff, which we also never got, just like Before Crisis. So overall, I'm just not really a fan of it. I know things about it, I know the lore, but I'm not looking forward to them including compilation material and Remake if they don't make it better. and it seems like that's what they've been doing in Remake, is making it better. So um, hopefully that's, uh, doesn't make anyone mad at me that I don't like the compilation, because I mean, everyone has different tastes. I love the OG to death, but I hate the compilation. I mean, I just didn't have that much fun with it. Like, I had more fun with the gameplay of Dirge of Cerberus than I did with Crisis Core. The materia fusion system was cool. The summon animations were cool, but I didn't care for the DMW, the pachinko slots. I didn't care for that at all. I did not like how clunky the combat was in the original Crisis Core, which will hopefully be fixed in Reunion. I didn't like the way they changed the design of the Buster Sword, which is also being fixed in Reunion, so that's cool. I didn't like that stupid Gold Hill ornamental bullshit. I like that grunginess '90s, metal feel, death metal feel of the original Buster Sword. And I like Remake's Buster Sword the most. It looks the coolest out of all of them. So it's cool that they're trying to tie that in, and that brings up the question of how much of compilation are they tying into Remake, which I have a theory on that, and I'm going to definitely talk about that in a later video, so definitely look forward to that. That video is probably going to be coming real soon, because I am really stoked to talk about Remake and where it's headed and all that. Yeah, Advent Children, I enjoyed my first watch of it, but I didn't like Advent Children Complete. Should have been the original release. It really does make the story more understandable, but I still, like I said, I don't like the way they handle some of the dialogue and stuff like that. But the end fight with Sephiroth and Cloud, like, that's everyone's go. Like everyone loves that shit, even if you hate the movie. And I'm one of those people. I love that fight, but it's really hard for me to go back and watch that movie. But I did enjoy the complete version. I did enjoy it. I just wished it wasn't as cringe, but it's less cringe in the Japanese, so I try to stick to that. But who knows? Maybe they'll redub Advent Children in the future with the Remake voice actors and re-lip sync it, and who knows. And Dirge of Cerberus, I kind of enjoyed. I kind of don't. I mean, who doesn't want more Vincent? But I don't know, the way it happened. I just I don't know. The gameplay's okay for a third-person shooter. It's not the best, and the dialogue is still cringe. The story is very, like, all the story, and I've only played Dirge of Cerberus in English, but it is very fucking cringe. And that doesn't mean I hate everything about it. I did like the Sviets, and I thought they were kind of cool. But I don't know, just the way they explain how some of this stuff happens and everything. And it is really my hope that in a remake that they just say fuck Dirge of Cerberus happening 3 years after this game. And let's just have it happen within it. But once again, I will explain that in one of my later videos discussing where I think Remake is headed, and I think you guys will enjoy what I have to say about that. And that's really all I have to say about the compilation, because like I said, I mean, I've read the books and stuff. I think the books are better than the games, because I like the lore more than the lore, and the stories aren't as bad as how they actually present that story, and how the voice actors are directed, and the script itself. I just enjoy it, how they do it in Remake a lot better, and I really hope that they just, any compilation stuff in there, they rework things to be more realistic. Not like, it's not a realistic game. I just mean like talk more realistically about things, I guess. Actually sound like real people and not anime robots, and they've been doing that so far in remakes, so shouldn't have to worry about that, I guess. And yeah, that does it. I don't really have anything else more to say about the compilation except how it's going to be incorporated in Remake and how they are going to potentially change Crisis Core Reunion, or not even so much as change, but add things. I am going to go into that in the future, so look forward to that. But as for the compilation, that does it. Now to discuss Remake. So, Remake was a roller coaster, especially for me. I've had my periods after beating Remake, loving it or hating it, doubting where they're going, being optimistic where they're going. Literal roller coaster. And I have been asking for this game for, it was almost 2 decades. Since I was 11 or 12, I've been posting on forums. And since we saw Final Fantasy X, that started the whole big everyone wants to see the older Final Fantasies remade, and they gave us a broken promise on that they were going to remaster or remake them on PS2, 7, 8, and 9, which never came to fruition. I think they realized they couldn't do that on that hardware, and it was looking hard to do it on the PS3 as well, so here we are, and they had to wait till the PS4. But yeah, since before the compilation was even a thing, I have been asking for a remake of OG FF7. And I remember back in the day, anytime something from the compilation came out, like a trailer or something, everyone was hoping it would be the remake of Final Fantasy VII. And then in I think it was 2000, maybe it was 2005, that they teased that tech demo on PS3 of just the opening of Final Fantasy VII and better graphics. And they were just playing with us at that point, just screwing around with us. But the remake has just stayed in people's minds for such a long time. Ever since the PS2 era, pretty much, people have been constantly asking for this. And 2015, when at E3 when they announced it, was one of the greatest feelings I've ever had in my entire life. Next to my kid being born, that is one of the greatest feelings I've ever had in my life, is they announced that remake and it actually happened, especially after such a long time. I was just in disbelief. And it's just, there's been so much questions around it, with the whole splitting it into parts, why are you doing that, and how different is it going to be and everything, and playing it and all the mixed emotions you get. It has literally a roller coaster ride. It's been crazy. But my initial feelings for when it was announced were relieved and just amazed and just speechless. In that moment when that got announced, I literally felt like a little kid again. And not a lot of stuff in life can make me do that. As now I'm 34, but then I was 28, 29. But yeah, as an older person, it's not that easy to get that reaction out of you, and they got that reaction out of me. And that was before we knew what Remake was exactly aiming for and what it was going to be. But that's a moment that I will always remember and be thankful for. So thank you, Square Enix. So then we are reintroduced to Final Fantasy VII Remake at the PlayStation Experience 2015 with changed gameplay, and we're being told it's going to be split into parts and all this stuff, and I was probably most like the rest of you, like, what's going on, like, how different is this going to be, like, why change the original combat system, why fix what's not broken, please don't involve the compilation, just stick to the original. I had all these thoughts going on, and until I actually was reintroduced to Remake in 2019 when they showed it at that State of Play again for the first time after going through development hell and firing CyberConnect 2 and pulling the Remake in-house. Like, I had all these doubts, and when I played Remake, surprisingly, most of those doubts were washed away. The battle system was one of the best battle systems I've ever played in a game, let alone an RPG. It still retains everything from the original, but it, gives you that free roam action packed feel. You get to fully control these characters, and you're not just standing in one spot, and it's really awesome. I just can't give enough praise to the battle system. And it's only going to get better and better with each part that comes out. They're just going to keep expanding on that battle system and making it better, so I have no qualms with that. But when the Whispers were introduced, and we get news that the compilation is being intertwined, I started getting into doubt mode again. But I was still hyped to play the game and figure out, like, what is, like, the vision of this. What is this going to be? And when I played the demo, I loved it. I was blown away. Like I said, the gameplay really resonated with me, especially as an OG FF7 fan, and it's really surprising that I was one of those people who's like, don't change the battle system, who wound up loving it, because I know people still exist who hate the Remake's battle system and still want it to be like the originals. But in my personal opinion, it's just it is what the original was and more when it comes to the battle system. And I know I don't mean that like having all the spells we had access to in the original, because this is just the first part. We're lucky we had summons, which were never in Midgard to begin with. But as like by the last game, like, this battle system is going to be like the definitive battle system in an RPG for me. And all my qualms about like how they intertwined the compilation, like when I was playing through the game, like I didn't really like, anytime a compilation element would pop up, I wasn't angry or frustrated. I thought that they handled it very well, because like I said, I like the lore, I just don't like the way it was presented. But the way it's being presented in Remake is it's very good, and I have no qualms with it. Like, if they're gonna do the compilation story and tweak it up and make it a little better than hopefully a lot better than it was, I am all on board for that. Expansions, more lore, more things to dive deep into, I am all for that. So as long as things are told well and they like resonate with people, then I have no qualms at all with that whatsoever. So the Whispers, I was not a fan of the Whispers on my first playthrough, and maybe even my second playthrough when I realized what they were. Several playthroughs, maybe even, in fact. I was not really a fan of the Whispers, but now my perspective has changed on the Whispers. Like, they are a tool used to do certain things, to explain what is happening in a Remake story, and how they can add new things with it making some kind of sense. Or, if they wanted to change things like having Advent Children happen within Remake instead of after. Because if you think about it, Remake is probably going to be the last entry in the well, like, once all the parts are done, the last of the Final Fantasy VII series. This is like the developers, like, last hurrah. They're going out with a bang. So, I really think they're gonna do something that is, thrilling and full of mystery and have us on our toes. But I don't think they're gonna blow it in the end. That's just my personal opinion. But like, the whispers to me now are just, like I said, a tool to make things make sense that they're gonna happen. So, like, if they did decide to include the events of, like Dirge Cerberus or something within Remake, like, say, after you defeat Hojo at the Return to Midgar, instead of, like, waiting 3 years and then Weiss pops up and Hojo uploads himself to the internet or the Shintranet sometime, like, within those 3 years. Like, it just happens, like, right after he dies up there. And then maybe after you leave Midgar, like, you're informed, or, like, the whole Dirge Cerberus plotline starts happening. And then you just do it within Final Fantasy VII Remake, instead of, 3 years after the fact. Like, put it within the confines of the OG story instead of that happening after. Just, like, they kind of threw AC and On the Way to a Smile into Remake instead of have it happening after, like they did that in part 1. So, in the way they did that, I will have an explanation about in my video discussing what I think Remake is doing and where it's going. I have a lot of thoughts on that, and don't call it all bullshit just yet, because I don't entirely think it's a Sephiroth from the future or anything. But I do think that the compilation that happens before Remake is possibly set in stone, but the stuff that happens after is going to be incorporated into Remake. Because, like I said, this is going to be the grand hurrah, the finale. They're probably going to have a definitive ending. Sorry, I couldn't say that word for some reason. A definitive ending where, they don't, where everything doesn't happen the way it does after Final Fantasy VII Remake. So, in the original Final Fantasy VII continuity, I guess you could say, like, On the Way to a Smile and Advent Children happened, like, 2 years or whatever after Final Fantasy VII. But in Remake, it's going to happen, like, within the time frame of the events of the OG, like, in between them, so they can include everything and tie up every loose end. Because, it's not really a definitive ending if Dirge Cerberus happens 3 years after this. And, that Genesis stuff when he pops out at the end and flies away with Weiss, like, that would never be explained. So I don't think they're going to do that unless they remaster Dirge Cerberus like they did to Reunion and include, like, another end, like, the definitive ending of what happens after the Gact and Weiss stuff. But I really have a strong feeling they're going to do that within Remake. But overall, like, by the end of, like, I just want to say, like, by the end of Remake, like, I was, like, actually in tears. And even after seeing all, like, the what's going on with Zack stuff, and I'm still, I don't really know what's going on with that. I don't want to comment on it because I don't really have a solid, there's just, like, no real evidence for what's going on yet. I mean, there kind of is, but, like, there's so many different ways it could be interpreted. Like, we just need more evidence. We don't have enough to make a solid conclusion. So anyone could just say it's going to be this or it's going to be that and just throw whatever shit sticks to the wall. But like I said, I like to have my theories very well thought out and make sense. And I do have a few Zack theories. I will be doing a video on that sometime soon. But like I said, I have several different theories. It's not just like one that I'm set on. There's several ways it could go. And yeah, like so at the end of the game, like, you know, all that whisper stuff's happening. I'm like, what the fuck's going on in my head? I'm like a little upset, like the first time I'm playing it, and then I fight Sephiroth, and all that just went away. You know, the fucking awesome rebirth music comes on. You're in an epic boss fight, like that. Just, you know, it really put a smile on my face. It really, like, I don't know, it made me, like, I enjoyed it. It was something new that didn't happen in the original, and I enjoyed it. So that's a good sign. And like, just that fight was amazing. But afterwards, with the ending and everything, and going to the credits, and Eris, like, you know, I miss it, the Steel Sky, like, I was in fucking tears because I was going in my head thinking about all the stuff that, like, I remember from the OG that happened in this, and how well it was represented. And then I got, like, a bunch of new stuff on top of it that, like, you know, I don't know about, and who knows if it's going to be good or bad. That it's up for debate. We will not know until the future parts are released and we've played through those parts and we know exactly what is going on. But at that moment, I was just very thankful. I was very thankful that I couldn't believe that I just played the remake and, like, beat the first part. I couldn't believe it. Like, after, like, almost 2 decades of waiting for this to happen, like, it was just a lot of emotion. And you know, all the crazy epic boss battles we had, all the expansion on the existing lore, and, like, just the character interactions, how they talk to each other, like, and, like, all the revamped locations, like, everything, like, was just mind-blowingly amazing. And I know there's a lot of controversy with, you know, some of the stuff was, you know, shouldn't have been changed, or certain things were taken out that shouldn't have been taken out, or, like, you know, like stuff like the Genova blood trail, now it's like alien blood, or plasma, or whatever the hell you want to call it, and not like red human blood. There's no bodies littered in the hallway. I completely 100% missed that. Like, I wanted that to be there, so I'm a little disappointed in that. But, like, aside from that, I have had my ups and downs with Remake, like, you know, loving it and hating it, but I'm at a point now where I'm very confident for the future, and that's not because I'm like, oh, I'm just accepting everything's gonna change and be different. It's like, no, I've accepted that I'm going to see the stuff that I want to see, which the developers have reiterated over and over again. It's just there's going to be new places that we go to in between on our journey, the journey that we remember. There's going to be new things in between it. There's going to be new pit stops, and you know, new sub stories and the subplots going on. You know, you got the sub stories. The overarching story is still going to be OG FF7, and I've come to a realization and an assurance of that. Excuse me. But yeah, I have like came to terms with that. Like, that stuff isn't going to be gone. So I really, like, that was the number one thing that set me off, is like, oh, is this going to be a completely different story? And the devs have stated numerous times, like, no, it's still going to be on the rails. It's just like the journey will be different, but we're still going to the same destinations. Like, even if you go to let's say you go from, like, the City of the Ancients to the Gaia Cliffs to Icicle Inn. Before you go to Icicle Inn, you could go to, like, Modeoheim or something, like a compilation location, and there'll be something new there. Or, like, the towns that we do go to, we go in the same order, but there's new events that happen there, which I should hope so, because we need new side quests and interactions with the townspeople and all that stuff. So that is to be expected. And I'm at the point where, like right now, where I just really look forward to Remake's future. I'm very excited for it because I have that like reassurance. Like, and don't ask why I have that reassurance, but I do, that things are not going to be too, or like, I mean, it doesn't matter how off the rails anything gets, it's eventually going to go back on the rails and go back down that same path. No matter how much we deviate, we will always come back to that original path. So, um, I'm just excited for like what's new, what they're gonna do new, and uh, I just feel assured that the old stuff's gonna be there, and whatever's new, I'm hopefully going to love it. But that's still up for debate. I could wind up hating it, but I'm not gonna know until I play it. So um, I'm just gonna have to wait and hope for the best, and that's kind of what I'm trying to do. That devs told me it's going to be the ultimate FF7 experience. You're going to still see all the things that you want to see, but there's going to be a bunch of new stuff in there. Um, you know, I'm pretty confident about what they say, and if they tell me that the things that I want to see recreated since I was a kid in modern graphics are going to be there, I'm going to trust them. And that's like going to be the most rewarding for me. But I also have these new mysteries, and if they are good, it's going to be another reward. But if they're bad, yeah, I guess it could be a detriment. But um, overall, I will see what I wanted to see from Remake. So um, that's the most important part to me. As long as I see the things that I want to see, and as long as anything new doesn't destroy the themes of the original, then I'm 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 pretty much okay with it. So uh, I will, you know, be looking forward to this series to the very end. Like, I'm going to be on this hype train until the end of it, and we're probably going to be talking about this remake years after it's done, like we've been talking about the original Final Fantasy VII years after it's done. So um, I'm looking forward to that too. I could talk about Final Fantasy VII for the rest of my life and be satisfied. I just love it that much. I've been doing it this far in my life, and I haven't lost passion for it. My passion has only been reignited with Remake, and all these new mysteries. So I'm looking forward to those mysteries, and that is my overall thoughts on Remake. Awesome battle system. I like where the story is going. I had some issues with things like whispers and compilation integration into the story at first, but I have lightened up to it. I don't know what's going on with the Zack stuff. Hopefully it's good, but I do have thoughts coming very soon on where I think Remake is going, and um, like what Remake did, where Remake's going, where Rebirth's going, where Part 3 is gonna, where Part 2 is gonna end, and where Part 3 is gonna start, and all that stuff. Like, I have like a bunch of theories on all that, and that is going to be my very next video. I just wanted to give you all my overall thoughts on how I feel about the original, the compilation, and the remake as it stands right now, this very second. I feel very, very good about the future, and I don't think that they are going to do anything that is going to overall ruin the experience, even with these new mysteries they set up. But I could be wrong. They might screw up, the theme of, something important in Final Fantasy VII, like life and death. Who knows? But I am under the belief that Rebirth is going to be filled with loss. This is going to be the game where a lot of people die, and they just give you a compelling story and give it that Empire Strikes Back touch where everything ends on a somber note. And I think it's just going to be very glorious. But I will dive deep into that stuff and uh, tell you all my thoughts in my future theory videos, and I will break down what I love about the original game in detail in a future video. But I'm not sure when that video is going to be because I really want to get uh, a script for it, because I want to just convey as much as I can in a short amount of time as possible, because I could just ramble on for the original Final Fantasy VII for hours. I could talk about it like with no end in sight. So I just really want to save that for a future video, possibly when I have a camera set up and all that. But I really appreciate all you guys who have already subscribed to me and left a comment on my first video, and who have been supporting me to do this. It really means a lot to me, and I hope we can interact more in the future. And I really can't wait to hear your thoughts on some of my ideas. We'll be discussing where I think that Remake is going and what's doing. And until then, I will catch you guys later. See ya.